Hi, this is Allison from Insight in Oils. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you some simple tips on how to give a professional presentation on Zoom using Google Slides. If you're like me, you might need some notes to keep you on track, and so this method is going to show you how you can give a presentation, still have your notes, and interact with your guests. Okay, so your first tip is use Google Chrome. That is the best browser for using Google Slides when giving a Zoom presentation. And I'm going to assume that you already have a presentation ready and that it has notes like mine does here down in the bottom. The next tip is for you to install this little plugin up here. If you do not have this little box on your browser window, I would suggest that you go to Google Chrome and install the plugin. So you would do that by going to Window, Extensions, and then you're going to search for Open as Pop-up. And that is, just search for Open and it should come up. You will install that and then come back and we will continue. And I'll show you in a minute why that's valuable. So assuming now that you have your presentation ready, you have your extension installed, the next thing is I really like to make sure that when I give a presentation on Zoom, I have closed down everything on my computer that I don't need so that I'm not taxing my bandwidth for the internet or my computer's resources. So what I usually have open is my tab that has my presentation and my tab that has my Zoom account. Now, sometimes I play music for a few minutes before I actually begin the presentation, and if I were going to do that, I would also have my music software open, but we're not going to do that today. So the first thing you're going to do is click on Present. Now, this is going to put it into presentation mode, which of course fills the entire screen, and that's not what I want. When I hover down near the bottom, this black bar comes up, and I want to click on Notes. Now, once I did that, a box popped out. Over on the left, it shows you the presentation being viewed and the notes that go with it. And you can just click on Next or Previous to navigate between your slides. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're going to move to the presentation. Now, it may not bother you, but I really do not like when I give a presentation to have the bar that shows the long URL or the tab showing. I just want my participants to focus on the presentation. And that is where this little box comes in. When I click that, it pops out the presentation as its own window and without any of the tabs. And I can just resize that on my screen to whatever size that I would like it. And I'm going to show you how I set my screen up, and maybe it will help you in setting yours up as well. So I make it fit about like that. And then, of course, my notes can go over it. So the next thing I'm going to do is start my Zoom presentation so I can get set up in that. I like to do it a few minutes before it's time to start. So we'll just start that one right there. Let it go ahead and open, and there I am. Okay, so let's get set up for our presentation. First thing is to click on Share, and I'm going to share the presentation. There's a few other options here, but I only want to share my presentation. Now, if I were going to share music, I would also click that box right there, which I'm not going to worry about today. All right, so now you can see on my screen that there's this green bar around the presentation, which is letting me know that that is what's being shared right now. And so over the top of it, I can put my slides. Now you'll notice that every time I hover over this area on the slides, it pulls up this little black bar, and I don't want my participants to see that. And so I'm going to just move my slide notes right over the top of it. And it's okay for my notes to be in front of it because I don't really need to see my slide. I can see what is on my slide right here. And the most important thing for me is the notes that I'm going to be reading. The other thing I want to mention is that anytime your mouse goes over the area that is being screen captured, it will show up. Your participants will be able to see that. So I like to try, once I'm set up, I like to try and keep my mouse out of that area, which is why it's great to have this bar. This is what I'm going to click to maneuver through all of my notes, all through my slides, you'll see that it is actually below the bottom of that green bar. So as I click on it, it's not going to be a big deal. And if one of my slides had a lot of information that was down here, there would be a scroll bar I could use to get around and see that. Okay, so now that my slides and my notes are all set up, I also want to see who's in my class. So I'm going to click on participants and I get a box that I'm going to move over here to the right-hand side of the screen. This will allow me to see who is in my class and if their mic is on or their camera is on, etc. I also like to take the step of muting the participants on entry, and that way if someone joins late and they have their microphone on, it's not going to be distracting for everybody, including myself. I also like to check this box, which means that they can't unmute themselves. Now, you may or may not want to use that or not, but I like to use that while I am giving my presentation, and then if there's a point where I want them to participate with me and I want them to be able to unmute themselves, I can come here and click on Allow Participants to Unmute Themselves. So I can toggle that on and off. The other thing I like to make sure of is that this play, enter, and exit chimes is unchecked because those dings can become very distracting. Again, you can choose whether to do that or not. All right, I also don't need that anymore, so I'm going to make that go down. All right, so the next thing is chat. So I want to also be able to see what my participants are saying in the chat. So I open that box and I just move it and maneuver it down underneath my participant box. So now my screen is all set up. I'm ready to give my presentation. When people come in, they're going to see the slide that I have set up here, right? So I want to make sure it's on my first slide, my title slide. And then I'm going to be able to see who's participating and I'm going to be able to chat with them in the chat box. Right, I hope that this setup helps you feel confident in giving a professional presentation on Zoom. Thanks so much for joining me.